Well, there's a few problems with mammograms. First of all, you have the possibility of false positives. False positives, when it comes to regular doctors, are rampant anyways. All the time we see people who were falsely diagnosed with type 1 diabetes, falsely diagnosed with rheumatoid arthritis, and falsely diagnosed with breast cancer. That's among the most common false diagnoses that I see. And they're very, very quick to say that it's cancer. You know, it could be just a growth. They have no idea. They're looking at a lump on a screen. A lump could be a cyst. It could be a lymph blockage from wearing a bra. It could be something so simple. And they're going to press you into, as a precaution, we want to cut the breasts off here and get you on some drugs. You know, doing any surgery, they get you on drugs after, at least antibiotics. So, I mean, it's reckless to me. It's butcherism to me. They don't actually have proof in many, maybe even most cases. They have no proof that it's actually cancer. Then there's the radiation that you're exposed to, and that's not a conspiracy theory. You're exposed to radiation when you do a mammogram. And so we're not the only ones saying that it's very likely that these mammograms, since they're doing so many of them and they're pressuring women to do them every year, that the amount of radiation that they're being exposed to there could very possibly actually cause breast cancer. So there's many people who theorize that there's a certain percentage of people who get mammograms who actually had their breast cancer caused by the mammogram. I don't have proof for this, but it's an unnecessary risk, especially considering that doctors don't have much to help you anyways. You know what they do. They cut the breasts off. They might give radiation. They probably will give chemotherapy in any case. That's all they have. They have drugs, tests, and surgery and radiation. They don't know what to do to naturally support healthy tissue or a healthy body or healthy breasts. They just have no idea unless they took it upon themselves to study nutrition. They were never taught nutrition. The longest lived populations, the so-called blue zones, they don't have doctors. They don't have mammograms. They don't have colonoscopies. They don't have dentists. And yet they still live to the longest longevity on Earth. And they don't really have breast cancer. You know, even if they do, it's not affecting their longevity, basically. They don't have testicular cancer and colorectal cancer and all these things. These are modern problems. And the problem is we think that modern problems require modern solutions, right? So they use all this fancy high-tech stuff, whereas if you just went and ate what they live like they live in Hunza, live like they live in the Cayo Peninsula, Costa Rica, then you're probably not going to have these cancers. And if you do have any symptoms, they're probably going to go away because they're not eating the processed foods and they're getting a whole bunch of nutrients and they have other factors in their lifestyle, like they're relaxed and they have good family structures and faith and all this stuff that helps. But none of this has anything to do with high-tech medicine, including mammograms. So they're not doing anything to approach the problem. Now, if you came to me and said, hey, Ryan, I just got a mammogram and it showed that I have a lump, the advice from me would basically be the same whether you got the mammogram or not. You want to support a healthy body, then you want to get off the bad foods and you want to get on the 90 essential nutrients. Sure, if you have a more serious problem, I'm going to be more stern about it. Like, look, you should really, really avoid all the bad foods. But we give the same list to everyone. It's up to you how seriously you take it. You don't need a diagnosis in order to take it very seriously. You can avoid all the bad foods right now. You could take a baseline dose of the 90 essential nutrients right now. You could encourage lymphatic flow to the breast or to the entire body right now, easily. Now, this might be the protocol that I would give you if you confirm that you have a problem in the breast, but you can do all this stuff right now. You don't need a diagnosis. Just like you don't need a diagnosis to eat the way you would to have healthy blood sugar. You don't need to have diabetes in order to do that right now and prevent the problem in the future. So the diagnosis might help you take action, whether that's conventional action or alternative action. Great, but we'd rather not wait until something breaks in order for us to take action. This is a big part of our message. Most people that come to us, they've already have something that is broken. It would have been better to do the prevention stuff ahead of time. I realize not everyone knew this ahead of time. I didn't know this ahead of time. My mom didn't know this. That's why I was born with birth defects. I wish she did know this, but hey, it's much harder to deal with something after it's already broken. So this entire system that we have where we wait for something to break and then we go to a doctor, that's setting us up for big trouble. Because we could have prevented it, number one. Number two, everything that the doctors have for us is harmful. Even if it works, even if the chemotherapy works, even if cutting off the breast works, of course, you can't have breast cancer if they cut off the breast. Even if it works, it was drastic and unnecessary because these problems could have been prevented ahead of time with nutrition, whether you had a test or not. And you can also do your own breast exam very easily. You can do it once a month, once every 3 months, once every 4 months, once every 6 months, whatever. You get a notebook, you write it down. First of the month at noon, this is when I do my self breast exam. You don't have to wait in line for the doctor. You don't have to deal with insurance or anything like that. You can just do your own self-breast exam. Take 15 minutes, take a half an hour, feel around very thoroughly. You should know your own body and know if anything has changed. And if you do have some lump, then you can take action. You can ask questions to yourself. You can ask questions to us. Is the lump exactly where the wire of the bra sits? Maybe I don't want to use a wired bra anymore. Maybe I want to use an elastic bra or padded shirts or no bra, depending on the woman and the circumstance. I know it's not practical for everyone not to wear a bra. I'm just saying, if there is a lump directly where the bra is, which is very, very common, is maybe the most common thing that I see, then you can stop that. You can encourage lymphatic flow there, and hopefully the lump goes away quickly. It usually does. One of the most difficult things about this business on my end is I often have to deal with people who are so freaked out because they went to a doctor, they got a test, the test said something bad. So again, as I said earlier, they could have done all the same stuff that I'm going to recommend. They could have done it ahead of time. Get off the bad foods. Like, don't wait till something breaks to get off the bad foods. Just like you don't wait until your engine seizes up to change the oil. You change the oil ahead of time so it doesn't happen. So you can do it right now. And it's great if you have the motivation to take the whole list seriously, but we're encouraging everyone to take the whole list seriously anyways. Just do it now and avoid problems in the future. But it's very difficult to deal with people who are that stressed out. And, they've been told by the doctors, you've got this thing, we've got to take action on this right now. There's so much stress involved. Now the families are usually involved too. The families are now pressuring you to do what the doctor says as well. And again, all the stuff that they have to offer is actually bad. It actually harms you. They have drugs, tests, surgery, and radiation. And so all of that is going to leave you worse off, even if it fixes the actual problem. So you can't actually get a cancer diagnosis unless you go to a doctor. You'll notice if you come to us, we give you the questionnaire. On that questionnaire, I ask you what your diagnoses are, what your symptoms are, if you have any. I don't do any diagnosing, so I can't give you a cancer diagnosis, and I never will. You see what I'm saying here? You can't get the diagnosis and go through this whole thing with all this stress and making all these tough decisions. Do I do the chemotherapy? Do I not do the chemotherapy? Do I let them cut my body apart and all this stuff? That never happens if you don't go to the doctor. I know that can sound irresponsible on its face, but if you're doing everything you should be doing to support the body, if you're off the bad foods that cause these problems in the first place, if you're on the nutrients that your body needs to work properly, if you're going above and beyond and living a stress-free life and paying attention to EMF, you're doing all these things, then your chances of getting a cancer are so minuscule in the first place that you'll never have to deal with this stress, and you'll never have to get a test. And I'm quite convinced that the stress of the whole situation actually contributes to malignancy, actually contributes to cancers that go out of control, because there's so many cases where people they were fine. They went into the doctor for their colonoscopy, and the doctor says, you got polyps in your colon. This might be cancer. This might be malignant. But the man wasn't feeling weird or anything, nothing like that. Lots of people, Dr. Wallach's an autopsy person, right? He's a pathologist. He does autopsies. Keep that in mind. So he'll say, at autopsy, most men will have polyps somewhere in their colorectal Doctors will tell you it's cancer, but the men didn't die of that. They died of something, heart disease or diabetes or something like that. They didn't die of the polyps. So I think that one of the things that makes it an emergency situation is you go to the doctor and they fill you with stress, and then they put drugs into you and all this stuff, and now you actually have malignant cancer, whereas most of these men, like I said, at autopsy, they would have died from something else. They wouldn't have even had to do anything about the cancer. The general answer is yes, but not